Well, I'm Alex Garrett, and this is the Sports Spotlight now, once again, with Lou Terminello, Terminello's Take. First of all, thanks to you and Jim Lamparello for giving us the insights into Willis Reed. That was a special conversation, wasn't it, Louis?
It was, and I was talking to Jim, who went down for the funeral with his wife and a couple of other Nets people. I did not go. Jimmy sent me some pictures, and Jim said it was a spectacular way that Grambling State pulled off the event, and I was very, very happy that Willis got the funeral that he deserved. I know that Clyde was there, Walt Frazier, Bill Bradley was there, Spike Lee was there. Obviously, the people I worked with at the Nets, former Nets president Mike Rowe was there. So that was a good way to give the great captain his send-off into the next life.
Well, now his team, the Knicks and Nets, are in the playoffs, in the postseason. First of all, I want to talk about the Nets real quick because you and I have gone back and forth. I thought they might not make it. You were confident in it after their 5-6-game win streak, and here they are. But obviously not the seed that was expected, right?
Absolutely. I mean, remember on January 8th when Durant got rolled into and had the knee injury, the Nets had just finished a streak where they were 18-2 and they had the second best record in the league, a half game behind the Celtics. And then a month later, in a span of 4 days, Kyrie Irving is traded. Durant requests a trade, doesn't demand a trade. And the Nets made a great trade, obviously, with their backs up against the wall in both situations. But again, they are a non-contender. They're going to be playing a team that they don't match up with at all. I can't see, as well as Bridges has played, and he's been spectacular. I mean, he's averaged almost 26.5 points in his 25-26 games.
What a trade that turned out to be, right? Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's going to be a cornerstone for what they do in the future because their roster is a team of small forwards, and we've talked about it before, that they need to balance out the roster. Dinwiddie's done an excellent job, but they need a point guard. I mean, Dinwiddie's going to be part, I think, of the team moving forward unless he's involved in a trade. But I would say on the current roster, the untradables, the untouchables are Mikal Bridges and Nicholas Claxton, who has just improved so much in the last year and a half. I would say they are the two untouchables. Cam Johnson, borderline untouchable. I mean, I guess it depends on what Sean Marks is going to do. The off season is probably going to be more eventful for the Nets than this postseason. I thought the Nets were going to drop into the play-in tournament, but they didn't. And they're playing the Sixers. They have nobody, even though Claxton's done a great job. He leads league in block shots. He's a good defensive player. They have nobody to stop the Sixers' power to beat them 4 times out of 7. I just can't see it. They might win a game in the series, but I could tell you one thing. I think that the playoffs in the NBA are going to be, and I hope, much better than the 2023 NBA playoffs will be much better than the terrible 2022-23 regular season. I mean, there was just a lack of dedication and focus by the majority of the players in the league. Sometimes it was just downright embarrassing the way some of these games went. Players throughout the league.
You mean the 100-plus points a game wasn't exciting? The 141 to 123 that we saw nightly? I feel like that's exciting, though, isn't it?
Look, Alex, those points were scored through a lot of lack of effort. There's a lot of great offensive players in the league. There's no doubt about it. But you have no continuity with players missing games, babying themselves for minor injuries, missing games for personal reasons, just various situations that made this a bore of a season. Again, a 145 to 139 game could be exciting, but there has to be some competition. I don't think the competitive level of the NBA right now is where it was 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, and certainly isn't what it was in the mid-'90s and first decade of the 2000s. The competition on the court was lacking throughout the season, and it just made for a whole-home, non-memorable regular season. You couldn't get a handle on the season, and what happened in the regular season has nothing to do with what's going to come up in the next 2 months. So, I mean, you had the Golden State Warriors who's a 6th seed. I think they have a chance to win the championship. You had the Lakers who struggled all year. They looked terrible. But in the last month or so, Anthony Davis is playing like a top-notch player again. He's a top 5 player, if you want to give him that designation. No question about it. They played much better. Tonight, they got a walk in the park. They're playing Minnesota at home. Rudy Gobert with that embarrassment on the Sunday, fighting with his teammate on the bench.
Well, that's interesting you mention that, because that happened on the Clippers bench also, which was just like, how is that 2 in 1 day? That's insane. But, it's interesting to say, the Lakers are really the case study of never giving up. They are sort of out of it, and they climb back into it. Now, we do have playing games tonight and tomorrow and this week. So how's this play-in format? Is this the first or second time we're seeing this, Lou?
This is the third year that it's that they've had to play in, and I don't like it. I don't think a team that finishes 10th in a 15-team conference should have a chance to play in the playoffs. But tonight's game, you have Minnesota and at the Lakers. I can't see the Lakers being threatened at all. Anything can happen in a one-game situation. But the Lakers, like I said, are playing better. And Anthony Davis is playing much better. And they still have LeBron. I still think there's 3 mercurial players, and I'm not big on lists, as I've told you, but there's 3 mercurial players in the league that separate themselves from the rest. If you want to put Stephen Curry in there, okay, you can. But right now, it's Antetokounmpo, Giannis is still there, Durant is there, and even though he's pushing 39 years old, LeBron James is still there. You got to put those 3 in that super blue chipper category of players. If you want to put in Embiid or Nikola Jokic, okay, but I'm not yet. They're touching it, but they have to perform in the playoffs, and there's a lot of pressure on the Sixers. The Sixers have to go deep. They have to get to the finals. The process, which they talked about in Philadelphia 10 years ago, that's over. The process now has to be executed, and that team has a chance of blowing up if things don't go right for them. It wouldn't happen in this round. They're not going to lose to the Nets, unless it's the biggest upset in the last 25 years. But when they get to the next round, and they would have to play. Let's see, they would play. I guess they would play Boston. I would assume the Boston 7-seed winner. But they're going to have problems. They definitely, they're going to have problems if they run into any kind of adversity. They have to be able to handle adversity. A lot of pressure on the Sixers. A lot of pressure.
Lou, I got to ask you this. Oh, sorry.
No, they're the 1 seed. I mean, let's face it. 2 years ago, when they won the championship, they got a little lucky. Kyrie got hurt, and Harden was hurt with the hamstring. They weren't beaten. The Nets were up 2-0. Durant almost beat them single-handedly. If those guys weren't hurt, and remember, everybody forgets this. Dinwiddie was hurt. The Nets didn't even have Dinwiddie even if they had Dinwiddie to back up Kyrie, they would have won that series. And
Joe Harris went cold in that series after.
That's right. And Joe Harris had a horrendous series. But, we'll see. I think the playoffs are going to be more competitive. They have to be than this terrible regular season. But you mentioned the upsets, and I feel like Silver's trying to model the play-in
with the NCAA with this? Is there a correlation there? Did he get inspired by that?
Oh, I think
something
so.
Here?
And I think he realizes that competition level is not what it should be, and that's why he introduced this play-in tournament. And they're going to introduce a play-in, some kind of mid-season tournament, I think right around Christmas, that's going to count in the regular season. So there's going to be an in-season tournament in December or January, right around the holiday season, that's going to count in the regular season. I have no details of what that's going to look like, but Adam Silver has been wanting that tournament for years. And now he's going to get it next year because they just completed the new Players Association agreement, the new collective bargaining agreement, and that's included. So I'm not for a play-in tournament. I'm not for an in-season tournament, but they're going to do it. And I have no idea what this in-season tournament is going to look like. But there's single elimination and things like that in the middle of the season. Very much like what they do in European soccer with their multiple competition. So,
well, I'm going to ask you this because we haven't touched on them yet, but the Knicks playing the Cavs as you predicted, and look, I mean, I'm just happy that Brunson's going to be healthier, that maybe Randall will come around here during the playoffs. I remember a couple of years ago he did not, and everybody was disappointed after he was the comeback player of the year. But this is another year in the playoffs with Thibodeau, and this one is going to, I don't know. I feel like that's a determining factor into the future of the Knicks, is it not? This playoffs.
Well, I would say that there's little pressure on the Knicks, but they have a very good matchup. I think if the Nets had gotten to that fifth spot, I think they would have pushed the Cavaliers. I think they would have. But here's the advantage. Here are a couple of advantages that I see for the Knicks. They are one of the best rebounding teams in the league, and I think that's going to be a difference in this series. Cleveland has not really been in the playoffs. They were in the play-in tournament last year, but they lost 2 straight. Did they get any experience from playing the Nets in the first play-in? I don't know. And again, but this is really their first time in a 4 out of 7. And obviously, last year they didn't have Donovan Mitchell. They have a very good young roster. They had Jared Allen. I mean, they do have a good young roster. And Garland is a terrific guard. They're a good team. But the Knicks are a good team. The Knicks have a little depth to their team also. This is a toss-up series. This is definitely a toss-up series, Alex. And the difference between this year and last year, the Knicks have Brunson, the Cavaliers have Mitchell, and we'll see. So I don't know who's going to be the X factor for each team. Evan Mobley for the Cavaliers, Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson, he's not a scorer, but he was a good rim protector, and he's a terrific rebounder. Hartenstein has been a terrific free agent pickup as a backup center, and he plays a lot of minutes. There's going to be pressure on R.J. Barrett. If he has a bad series, and there's going to be pressure on Randall for what you just said a couple of minutes ago. Did not have a good series against Atlanta 2 years ago. And last year was basically booed out of the Garden, and they wanted them traded. The fans did. The media did. This year bounced back with a very good all-star year. But now he's got to do it. I mean, if he has a bad series, I don't know what's going to come out of it this summer for the Knicks in regard to into Julius Randle. Plus the fact he's coming off a very bad ankle injury, and I don't even know if he's going to be ready for the first game of the playoffs or the second. So we'll see.
Right, well,
but like I said, it's wide open, these playoffs, because we have not been able to get a handle of what could happen in these playoffs because the regular season was so fractured.
There's such a big picture, though, with New York sports right now because our tri-state hockey teams are right in it for the playoffs here too. I mean, look, the Islanders had a strong second half. It seems like the Rangers they had a bit of a dive, and they came back, and they've been consistent to where they will be. They're locked in. And the Devils, come on, Jack Hughes, and I think they just signed his brother Luke Hughes as well. So
they did. They had drafted him 4th overall last year, and they just signed him. I don't know if they're going to play him tonight, or in the last game of the season, or in the playoffs. But yeah, he's very good. You know, he played for one of the best teams in the country, even though they got upset in the national semifinal. But that's interesting for sure. The Islanders last night losing puts them in a very tough spot. Their chances of making the playoffs went from 75-80% to maybe 25%. But it's going to be hard for the Islanders to get in now with these last. They only have one game left.
My main question then is, we're not used to everybody making a playoff run here in the spring, are we? I mean, it feels kind of
the last time all 5 made it, the 3 hockey teams and the 2 basketball teams in the same season was 1994. So that's a long time ago.
And we know what happened then. The waiting was over in 94.
Right, that's right. The waiting was over.
Real fast, does the big scoreboard in Citi Field improve the team, or is it just I mean, obviously they had a nice game against the Padres, but overall, Mets coming in literally limping a bit. What are your first early reactions to them the weekend here?
I mean, you know, it's April 11th. They're 6-5. That big scoreboard, I don't know if it's distracting for hitters, but they were talking about that on the game last night on the game telecast with Keith and Gary were talking about it because it is a huge scoreboard. But I don't think the scoreboard really plays into it. I think obviously the Mets need to hit better. I think they're going to be fine. I think their bullpen's been fine so far, but it's going to be hard to maintain that over the course of 162-game season because of the constant use that bullpens are put under in modern baseball. But we'll see. I mean, Alonso has 5 home runs already. I think McNeil and Lindor will hit. That's for sure. They need another hitter. They got to find another hitter. I don't think McNeil's a number 5 hitter. He can hit anywhere in the line because he's that good a hitter. But I don't think you want him as your number 5 or number 6 hitter. So I think they'll be looking around to improve the team during the season. We'll see. I mean, Verlander hasn't pitched yet. I mean, I guess it's not a big time injury, but they're going to take it easy with him. And I guess he'll be pitching in a week or two. I said towards the end of April, so we're in the middle of April already. The one thing about the baseball season I like is that I really like the pitch clock. I really do. That's the one thing I like so far in baseball overall. But these NBA players will be interesting. You got the Hawks and the Heat. You got the Bulls and the Raptors. And make no mistake, the best 3 teams in the NBA are in the East, with Milwaukee, Boston, and Philadelphia. They've been as consistent as NBA teams could be, the way the NBA is set up right now. But you got Golden State healthy. I know they didn't have a good regular season, but they are definitely a championship contender. I know Durant has only played 8 games for Phoenix, but they're definitely a playoff contender. Denver, a lot of pressure on Denver. They have to perform in the playoffs. I mean, Jokic is back-to-back MVP, and I probably would vote him MVP again if I had a vote. But they got to go deep in the playoffs as a team. So I think the playoffs will hopefully make us forget about this terrible regular season that just ended. In my opinion, I just don't think the regular season was anything to write home about.
Well, it was still fun to see the Garden light up a bit because you don't really see that during the next season. So it's a nice little change of pace. Real quick, though, you mentioned the pitch clock. I love it. I think it'll be like a 2.5-hour game every time. But also, I believe that these games are still going to be in flux. I don't think it's going to always be 2.5. I think it's still going to be baseball. What are they going to take out of the way, a ball and a strike? I mean, they can't just take away out either, so it'll still play out normally.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're going to see 4-hour game. You're going to see a 4-hour game or two. There's no doubt about it. Now, I just wish the pitch clock has done its job. Shortening games 35 minutes or so. I wish that would mean we don't need to have the free runner in the 10th inning. That's one thing. They use the free runner because they want games to finish quicker. I don't think we need the free runner, but again, how I feel about
Vince Scully said about the late arriving crowd. Well, that late arriving crowd would be there at the 7th inning at this point, right? So.
That's right. That's for sure.
All right, Lou. Well, this has been great, and I always love talking sports with you. So, any thoughts on what we're going to see? Are the Knicks and Nets going to move on? I know you don't think the Nets are going to move on, but
I can't see Alex. As much as I would love to see the Nets move on. I can't see them moving on. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Maybe they'll win one game, unless the Sixers implode. I don't think the Sixers are going to implode in the first round. I think they have too much talent. I know James Harden has been bothered with some kind of Achilles injury, and with Embiid, as dominant as he is, he always has knee issues and stuff. But I can't see the Nets winning more than one game. The Knicks and the Cavaliers, I'm not going to pick a winner, but it's going to be a competitive. I think it's going to be a compelling series. I do. I think it's going to go 6 or 7 games. And I would not be surprised if the Knicks win. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs win. It's a classic toss-up series. I think there might be pressure on some players. Like I said, Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett from the Knicks end, and of course Donovan Mitchell, who's a very, very good player. Was traded, signed the extension with the Cavaliers. Everybody thought he was going to come to the Knicks. They were going to make a trade, but Jazz and the Knicks couldn't agree on, the trade components. I guess the Jazz wanted Barrett, and I guess the Knicks didn't want to let him go. But he's going to have to perform because he knows that he is a missing piece to help boost the Cavaliers to the next round. So I think it's a compelling series. I would say in the East, that's probably the most compelling series.
Well, speaking of compelling, in Boston, you've had the Celtics and you had a incredible season by the Bruins. So I know Beantown's really amped up for this postseason, as is Tampa Bay, amped up for a 10-0 start. When was the last time the last 10 columns has had 10-0? I don't remember that even during the regular season. So this is quite a run.
I think the last 10-0 start was by the 1987 Milwaukee Brewers. I think they actually went to 13-0. Now again, I have great admiration for the Rays organization. They have mastered the art of analytics, because analytics have gotten them to where they are. They certainly aren't playing checkbook baseball, signing one free agent after the other. They're not doing that. But let's face it. I mean, I know they beat the Red Sox last night, who are an average team. But their other 9 wins were against the bad Detroit Tigers, the horrendous Washington Nationals, and the horrendous Oakland Athletics. But you got to tip your hat to the Tampa Bay Rays, and you got to win the games that are on your schedule, and they are doing it. They're a fine organization.
They are. And Arena, man, gotta love him. All right, well, guess what? We're out of time today, but we'll have more on Terminello's Take next week. Maybe we'll have some good news to report next Monday, huh, Louie?
I think there's a good chance you might have some good news to report next Monday. And the NHL playoffs start a week from today, next Monday. So next time we talk, we could talk about that, because there's some teams that are going to be under a lot of pressure during those playoffs.
Hello, Avalanche, repeating, defending champions in the playoffs, but and they had a nice little second half bounce back as well, because they were not where they're at now, right?
That is correct. They have had an outstanding last 2 months. So we could talk about that.
Face the Fanatics, so I'm rooting for McKinnon for sure.
So he's a great player, and I think he's a great player who's a little bit underrated.
Mm-hmm.
as great
when
as
you
he
have
is.
to get in your conference, everything else is going to kind of go by the wayside, and they're not even in the top 5, which is still mind blowing to me. I mean, they're in the 6th or 7th, and it's just like, how is that possible? You have McDavid on their team. But we'll cover that all next week, Lou, on Terminello's Take. Thanks again, and again, thanks to you and Jim for our prior conversation on Willis Reed.
My pleasure, Alex. You know I love being on with you.
This has been the Alex Garrett Sports Spotlight. We'll talk to you soon.